Well, that's hard to say because I don't really know exactly what they have left in there, and what's far away and what's close together sometimes is kind of irrelevant. But I don't see agreement here within another week, at least.
Oh, yeah, I'm prepared for it. My family hadn't been hurt, although my boy had been working some, and I was repaired myself before the strike started, and I've looked forward to going back to work and all, but I haven't heard any.
Well, I think number one would be the fact that any ad will show the reader what type of work is being offered, the nature of the job. I think number two, it'll show them the remuneration possibilities, whether it's to be by salary or commission or maybe a combination of both. However, it'll go even a little further in this direction, in that we are not going to permit figures to be used that are misleading. Earn $50,000 a year, part-time work, something like this. And I think probably number three, that they can be assured that when they do read an ad and they go to investigate it, that the job is a bona fide job offering, and they can feel like they're on solid ground.
At this point, John Peter Smith Hospital, Tarrant County's charity facility, could use some medical attention, at least from a financial standpoint. The hospital isn't exactly falling apart at the seams, but continued expansion and renovation is necessary, if only because of population growth in the county. The hospital is in need of better than $11 million. This money would have to come from general obligation bond sales, but the Tarrant County Commissioners Court has offered to give the hospital $1.5 million in revenue bonds now, and the remainder in general obligation funds by next summer. Some board members are inclined to take the interim funds as a stopgap measure. Among the needs of the facility are new operating rooms. The hospital now has 3 such rooms. It needs at least 10. John Peter Smith now has 6 stories. A construction program would expand the space to 11 floors. In the older sections of the hospital, the corridors are very narrow. Renovation is necessary in this area, too. In addition, mental health and drug rehabilitation sections need attention in the very near future. Hospital District Board member Mrs. Pauline Buchanan talked with us today. I asked her about a recurrent fear of the board?
Well, it's a high financial rated thing, I'll tell you for sure, and it costs a lot of money. We have 11 floors started out there. We had hoped to finish Phase 4, and Phase 4 includes 6 floors. I believe they told me it would take about $6 million to finish and to furnish 6 floors. We've been offered $1.5 million by our commissioners, as you know, and I don't know what the other board members think about this, but I can only speak for myself in this. At this particular time, I feel like, since they've offered this, that we should graciously accept it. That's my opinion.
Mrs. Buchanan denies that John Peter Smith Hospital is a second-rate facility, but she does say there are areas in which it needs attention. Jay Lewis, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
At the top of the chair, please. Sit down on the chair. And walk to about the middle of the room. That's good. Okay, turn and face me. Turn around once, please.
The sampling amounted to about 1 of every 13 officers, 113 officers, who were willing to sit down and take the time to explain very objectively what their thoughts were about good points and bad points.
I certainly think there will be some increase. I don't think you'll see a further radical decline. Again, you people may have felt it a little bit here, but you have to go out to Los Angeles to really see a serious decline in employment. And it's not the usual unemployment, incidentally, because these are engineers, many of them PhDs, who have allowed themselves to get in terribly narrow areas of work in these aerospace companies. And as a result, now they really can't get employment, and many civilian companies that could use these kinds of skills won't have anything to do with these people because they say they're too narrow.
Well, our main goal, Jerry, of course, is to win the ball game. We've got our backs to the wall now, and it's per usual, it's a great challenge for our club, and we haven't met the challenge very well the past few weeks. And of course, this is kind of a do-or-die game for us, and I think that you're going to see a good response out of us.
Do you think St. Louis will be improved over their last meeting with you?
I think definitely they are improved. They're a much better defensive football team. We thought that they were a good football team when we played them the first time, but they're a lot more active. Their linebackers are doing a better job, and of course, they use every possible defense possible. They've got as many defenses as we do offensive sets, so we're in for a night of it, and we're trying to prepare. We're kind of lucky to have an extra day this week, and so we're going to use it to the utmost advantage for us.
Does this make it difficult to audible at the line?
No, I think that you can read a lot of their defenses. Of course, when they're going to be kicking you or not, you never know, but you can read a lot of blitz tendencies, and we don't plan to audible a lot, but if the occasion does arise, of course, we'll try to stick them with a long bomb.
Physically and mentally, how do you feel? How are you ready to go Monday night?
Well, everything's in running order. I think that the countdown is here, and I'm ready for this game, and I know the team is, and we're going to put in a good show, and it's one we're going to win.
Well, it's always a real challenge to play against Texas. I haven't beat them since I've been here, and it sure would be sweet to knock them off this year.
With the drubbing that Texas has been giving the rest of the SWC, but not by a great margin, do you feel that you can be the team to knock them off?
I think any team can knock them off if they play up to their potential, and we got enough good ball players on our team to beat them if we play a real great team. But a real great game. But they've got just a fantastic team, and we'll have to play as best we can to stay in the park with them.
On defense, are you anticipating any problems with some of their lightning runners?
I think you could probably assure yourself that we're going to have problems with their lightning runners.
Instead of the older people who participate in the system which supports the war being drafted, the burden is being shunted off on the people who had nothing to do with the war. And I think there's a lot to do with the fact that the war is going on so long. The best of white youth are staying in the colleges while the best of black youth are going off to fight wars like in Vietnam. And he says what happens because of this is that the government is able to do two things. It takes a minority group like black people, poor people, and pits them against other poor people for the benefit of a lot of rich people. And that way it fights its wars, and it also at the same time takes the best of black youth out of their communities, thus depriving the communities themselves of their future leaders. So that's a whole problem. You see, in the black and minority communities, they're starting to feel like that.
I think the main thing is it will tend to exaggerate, if you wish, a trend that has already begun for this growth between the two cities in the mid-cities area. There is an additional point, though, and that is that because of the airport, there is likely to be much more rapid urban development north of the airport site than would otherwise have occurred. Both population and employment will tend to concentrate in this area around the airport in a way that might have taken much longer if the airport had not been built.
Our school systems have been too authoritarian. There must be a sharing of power among parents, among teachers, even with students, and local communities, as well as the district-wide officials. So far as teachers are concerned, they can share power best through collective bargaining. Teachers in many school systems have done this, and they can do it in Dallas too.
We've got to somehow get unions to understand that they don't have to play the game of trying to be the hammer rather than the nail. They've got to understand that we are willing to cooperate with them in working toward educational goals and achieving those goals.
I've had young men to tell me, I don't have a reason to appeal. I said, well, that's your right. If you want to, you can. It's not a delaying tactic, but that's what it can amount to, because many men sometimes need it to get into a reserve unit or to get into a regular Army slot or Air Force. So remember what you got available for you.
Back to the quoting of some of the officers on the department about being dissatisfied with the survey findings, let me say this. I'm not sure how many officers were involved in this. I would guess 2 or 3, maybe more. Not many more than that, I would suspect. And these are officers now who, in my opinion, are not indicating, in any sense of the word, the feeling of the majority of the people within this department, because the majority of these people, and you can talk to the people who have done this survey, the people who are quite knowledgeable about what most of the officers are saying and thinking about this survey, and I think you'll be surprised to find out what the feeling is. But the feeling of most of the members of this department, I think, is one of wanting to make it a better department. And most of them are willing to take the time to explain what some of the problems are and get those corrected so it will be a better department.
One of the major items on the Fort Worth School Board agenda this evening, meeting at 7:30 here at the Administration Building, will deal with the burning of trash and papers and incinerators at each of 117 schools in the Fort Worth District. The City of Fort Worth has criticized the school district for this practice of burning trash and papers because of air pollution. We asked the school superintendent, Julius Trulson, what they intend to do about the practice.
We have taken bids. We are taking and will propose to the board that we buy 2 incinerators to be installed at 2 of our schools immediately as soon as we can receive the equipment, which is an afterburner sort of a thing. In other words, you burn the trash and the smoke that comes from the trash goes to another chamber which burns that, and it leaves virtually no residue, so there's no pollution in the air from this. There are many of these on the market, and of course they're all fairly new, so we're going to buy these 2. We think they're good, and if they work out very well, then we'll include them in all of our schools on a regular rotation basis.
Has offered to carry the school district's trash off, haven't they?
They've offered to carry it off for $12,000 a month. That'd be 4 trips, or 4 to 8 trips a month for an average of about $10 a pickup, which we think is a fairly high
Mr. Trolson also mentioned the possibility of the school district purchasing their own trucks and possibly purchasing some land of their own to have their own sanitary landfill if the incinerator machines do not work as expected. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
Is there anything to Well, obviously the presence of armed security forces aboard airplanes on a random basis, but on a quite frequent basis, has deterred a lot of people or discouraged a lot of people from chancing it.
How about metal detectors at gates? Are they being very effective in your opinion?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we've had several instances recently where we've detected the weapon prior to boarding, and as a matter of fact, frequently find that the weapon is also accompanied by shipments of drugs and narcotics, things that are illicit. In other words, the association of the two has been quite significant.
Are the armed guards going to be a permanent fixture?
Oh no, there's never been any intention of keeping them on a permanent basis.
This is a gas laser device. It produces an intense beam of red light. It works very much like a fluorescent light bulb, except when the electrons of this gas laser fall, they fall in such a pattern that they produce only red light and not the white light that you commonly see. I think if we turn the lights out, we'll be able to see the red light produced by this gas laser. This is also a laser device, but it's of a different nature than the gas laser we showed you. It's a semiconductor laser, as you can see, very small. It was produced at Southern Methodist University, the science department, and with us is Dr. Kenneth Ashley. Dr. Ashley, this device obviously has an advantage over the gas laser in that it's much smaller. Are there others?
Well, of course, the fact that it is much smaller is its principal advantage, because in the implementation of these devices, you would possibly want to incorporate a large number of these in one application. So obviously it would be prohibitive in the case of the more conventional laser that we were looking at.
Now this conventional laser, as you put it, the gas laser, which is of some size and requires quite a bit of maintenance and operation costs, I would imagine. This apparently does not. It seems to be complete unto itself, except the two wires must go somewhere. What kind of system would this be?
The laser itself is very simple. It's in a lot of ways identical to a transistor. It has the same simplicity, and as you know, transistors initially cost literally hundreds of dollars and eventually cost say a few cents a piece, and the same thing will inevitably be true for these lasers.
Well, you may not see one tomorrow in the store, and you may not see one in the next airplane you ride, but there's a very big chance that lasers are going to play a big part in your life in the future. This is Gene Thomas, Channel 8 News, on the move at SMU.
There was developed a physical performance stress lab, which combines a series of stations which are circuits in nature, in that you participate in a circulatory respiratory activity, and then you move into a strength activity, then to a cardiorespiratory strength for 14 stations. And what we thought is, if we could incorporate this in a junior college or a college or even a high school, think of the use of this in the preventive health program. And we found great receptiveness on the part of the Dallas County Junior College District. They're planning to go ahead with these labs at both the Mountain View and Eastfield colleges. And we've just come from a meeting with representatives of the County Medical Association, who are enthusiastic about the possibilities of this in helping doctors carry out a reasonable exercise program under good leadership, which of course is the physical educator.
Well, you can't hardly make a game any more crucial than the St. Louis game is. We're one game behind St. Louis, and if they're successful in beating us, then we'd be 2 down with, I think, 5 to go, and this would be a very difficult thing to overcome. So this is a very crucial game for us, and it's crucial for them, although when they leave, if we beat them, they'll still be tied for first place, so naturally it's not as crucial for them.
Coach, you said after the Kansas City game you could tell the week before that they would play a good game. What's the attitude of the players as of now?
Well, I think our players know exactly what's facing us. No use kidding ourselves. We know exactly what we got to do Monday night, and we're getting ready to do it. And we're playing an excellent football team. I think this St. Louis club is as good as I've ever seen them right now. They're playing a great football. They've scored 75 points and to nothing in the last 2 ball games. You can't hardly do much better than that. I think the big improvement of St. Louis this year is in their defensive play. They were able to trade for Miller Farr from Houston, and it solidified their cornerback position with fellows like Wilson and Stovall. They're just playing excellent defense. True, the Lane Edwards tandem back there at the backfield are 2 big bulls. They can run the football very well. They're averaging 5 yards plus carrying the football. So we have some problems in stopping them or moving against them, and they could be one of the big ones, the 2 big backs.
Will there be any change in your starting lineups?
The only change that we'll have, Walt Garrison, who played very well against New York, will move back into the fullback spot.